Welcome back, everybody, to the Online Battle Podcast. I am here with Alex today. How's it going, Alex?
It could have been better, but I'm surviving. How are you?
Doing all right, doing all right. Before I get into my diatribe I want to get on, I want to go to you for your ups and downs.
Okay, well, down is definitely Meg and Dot. It would have been Dot completely, but somehow Meg is now like in a hot spot right now. So it's gonna be Meg and Dot. And then
Who-
up is going to be I mean, probably I would say Mike. I think that Mike has now successfully gotten himself out of anyone's radar at this point because he's just not the problem. And I would also say any of the leaders actually had a pretty good week, Delion and Q, because the three of them could potentially band together. They all have very common interests and common goals. So I think they went up.
I kind of want to start with this alliance talk because I feel like Days is trying to rewrite history. That there wasn't this big online survival
He
alliance.
definitely is rewriting the history. I mean, he's trying to not count. I mean, he's gonna comment on this anyway, but he's trying to not count people who are now either sent home or people who weren't really like part of it. But in reality, we started off with Mike, Dazed, Q, Meg, and Dot. And then Days immediately wanted to bring in Fan Guy and Aspen, but Aspen got kicked out. So in that sense, it was already a 7-person alliance. Just because things change really quickly doesn't mean that it didn't start out in that intention. It was always Survivor versus Big Brother, even when Mike started to, ease back in and stuff like that. It's just it was never not a big alliance. And they even drew lines between ISO and survival, even though ISO never even did that. So this is very interesting that we're talking about, whether it's a big alliance or not, when in reality, they created this big alliance and then also acted as if the other side was also doing that. When in reality, no one is doing that. It was just the survival people being paranoid, honestly. So
Yes,
I don't blame them,
I
but
feel like Days and even Aspen are just trying to disassociate from it because it's unpopular or something. That's what it feels like to me.
like right now, like in
Yes,
real
like right
time.
now in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I could give Aspen a little more wiggle room here because I feel like Aspen she didn't have enough talks to be in this huge alliance. And
But
she
I
was
will say
out
she was
there.
still trying to be in. She
Of
wanted to make
course,
sure
no,
she
no,
was
no.
with
She is
Survivor.
totally in the alliance. She's definitely in the alliance. It's just, I mean, you can't deny. Like Days cannot deny that one, he's like one of the beginning OG of this big alliance, and two, he is probably the most active person in trying to connect everybody together. Um, Whether or not I mean, I like the big alliance. I don't mind it because I feel like they're so messy and they fail so much that it's not really a dominating alliance in my opinion. um I mean, especially with this week, everything came light, so I'm not mad about it. But other people, there is one person who's really salty about the survival alliance. I don't know who that person is, but they're like commenting a lot of, I hope they go down or I hope everyone gets eliminated. I'm like, damn. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I will say I'm kind of glad it's unpopular to kind of keep from big alliances in the future, maybe from these
hopefully.
games. We'll see if that works.
I don't know if it'll work.
Let's start with the leaders this week, kind of being the outsiders. Thoughts on Q, Mike, and D Leon being the leaders this week?
Well, it's funny because I think I liked watching those three the most prior to this week, and to see them win the comp and being leaders together and sort of starting this little revolution whatnot together. I like watching it. It felt very scripted almost. It felt like it wasn't real because the narrative for all three of these people are they're on the outsides, For Treasure and Kelsey, yeah, they're ISO, but people have been trying to work with them the entire time, whereas Delion wasn't. And Mike, even though he's on survival, it's just not really like the core group. And
He's definitely at the
Q,
bottom.
Yeah, and Q distanced herself immediately once I know she doesn't like big alliances. So it's great that she took herself out and is still in the game right now as leader. So I like those three, and I hope to see them thrive. I don't know if they will because every week it changes in this group. It really changes dramatically. Like Meg was so safe for these past few weeks, and this is literally scary for her. I'm scared for her.
Yeah, this is kind of a hard episode to recap because so much was happening. There was a
So
lot of.
much.
Let's
Yeah.
see. We'll go to, I guess, Q and Delia want Days and Fanguy basically to be the targets. But Meg Dot, Fanguy, and Days just made this final four in the last episode. So let's just start with Days. We'll start with Days. Days' pitch is that he's bad at challenges, so people should want to take him to the final.
You're asking my thoughts on that. I mean, I think
Yeah,
it's a
on his pitch, yeah.
I think it's a good pitch, but I don't know if it's like effective. Like I think it's a good enough pitch, but at this point, there needs to be more in terms of like I feel like his game is kind of blown out in the sense of everyone is aware that he is building a big alliance. He's snaking people around. Um, and like even though his word, like he's pretty out front with what he's saying, what he wants. But it's sort of clear to everyone that he is the guy who has been creating this big alliance thing. So I feel like the pitch needs to be more personal and more like like what are your plans and who are you with and like owning up to things. At this point I feel like him saying you should take me because I'm bad at challenges is not a good enough reason, because one, we don't know for sure because like he's been in like one or two comps, and another thing is he is causing a lot of things to happen, so him just saying that doesn't really do enough. Like I don't think it's enough.
How do you feel Aspen has came back into the game? She's keeping that duo alive with Dot, kind of starting a duo with Mike. And she was the one person not nominated this week. So
I'm really happy Aspen came back because I feel like she did not have time to do what she needed to do in the first time before she got out. Because once she came back, she is completely under the radar. Even when there was things that were coming up where she could be a possibility to go up, other people kind of stopped it. Like Dot wants to work with her, and like Mike and them wants to work with her. So I feel like she is preparing herself in a really good position to go far in this game because she has the advantage of not having history with these people in this season. So she is, I think, in a better position, at least this week. But who knows what happens next.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people down this week and a lot of people up. I think she's getting added to the up this
She's
week.
up. She's definitely up. I mean, I think half this cast is down, half this cast is up at this point. Like because of what happened, literally Kelsey and Treasure were at a much more vulnerable position. Even though they're in this week, I think that they're up in terms of gameplay because if they survive this week, they have a lot more to move. Whereas people like Megan Dot, I don't know how they can navigate if they survive. Dot, maybe. I don't know how he escaped nominations when he was the first to pull this move of putting Meg's name in the thing. I'm guessing it's because Meg seemed more like a straightforward person, and this move felt very out of left field for her. But she is taking all the bullets from Dot at this point, and I don't know if he is going to be a target in next week because of this, especially if Meg goes home. I think Dot actually could recover somehow, even though he is the one who made the biggest mistake in this game so far. Yeah.
How do you feel about Fanguy's game this week? He was willing and dealing, trying to make a deal with Mike and Q, which seemed to pay off in the end, kind of.
He's up this week. However, I think that he's playing really hard. And one week they might not notice it, but the next they'll go back to it. I don't think he's someone that he's not anyone's number one besides Days, and that's not really a good thing at this point. So I think he's up as of now, but he's not in the best position at the moment either. He is vulnerable, but he is making good moves. I mean, Q wants to save him, and so does Mike and Dillion. So I think that he needs to continue playing hard because at this point, like he burned Treasure. He might lose Days. Like I think that he just needs to keep going because you can't really pivot at this point. You're just gonna keep having to play hard and snake everybody at this point.
Okay, so let's try and untangle this
So
Dot
much,
situation.
so much.
So Meg is kind of considering voting for Dazed and Kelsey. She has a talk with Q, who does not want Treasure and Kelsey put in together. But then she has second thoughts that maybe she should put in Aspen with Kelsey instead. She thinks that might be the easier vote. However, Dot has made this connection with Aspen, and Dot does not want to vote in Aspen. Dot wants to try and, I guess, cover all his bases and vote in Meg if he can. Thoughts?
My thoughts are I think that it makes sense surface level, like this whole idea of wanting to cover all bases and not get anyone mad. It makes sense, obviously, because you don't want to make enemies. However, there is a point where you have to start making decisions and drawing lines, and you can't be under the radar this like all the time, right? So Meg and Dot have already been under the radar the entire time, and now it's time for them to make a move. And Meg understands that, and she's willing to start figuring out what is the best move. Dot seems to completely still be stuck in the I don't want anyone mad at me, and in turn making this freaking doorway vote made everyone mad at him. I at least I think everyone's mad at them as a whole. I don't know if people were mad at Dot entirely, but they should because he is actively choosing to not cause enemies or not make any enemies. But he should have voted for somebody. He should have voted for Kelsey or Treasure, or I don't, from the way I watched it, I don't think he's close with Treasure. He's closer with Aspen, but he hasn't been with Kelsey in a long time either. So I'm just like, at this point, if you're gonna stick with the survival people, at least do it. Or if you're not, then switch over, flip it, like do something. Don't vote Meg on the third vote and making Meg upset. And I feel so bad for Meg because I feel like everyone, at least at the time, they completely think it was a whole ruse. How could you not? I mean, Dot says Meg and Meg says, okay, back at you. Like that literally feels like a movie. It feels like it's completely fake. But I 110% believe that Meg obviously did not intend to vote for Dot in any circumstance. It was just she was very thrown off by it. They already talked about this situation happening, but not at the third vote or whatever the case is. So Meg, I feel really bad for because her game is completely blown up, and it's not because of her. Like it's because of everyone else. So I don't know. I think that has a lot to do in terms of moving forward in this game. I mean, he's safe this week, but he's definitely not safe in the coming weeks. I mean, I don't know how he's gonna do it, but I can also see it happening. I just don't know how. I think that he is completely alone, especially if Meg goes home.
Yeah, Dot. I'm still, even editing this, I was still confused by this plan of Dot's. Like, I guess I kind of get it on paper how it's not going to show cards, but at the same time, it still shows your cards.
He's kind of, I think that he's kind of stubborn sometimes in terms of like when he thinks of an idea and it feels right, definitely go with it. But sometimes you have to listen to other people and see what is happening, right? Because the thing is, Meg, if you trust Meg, which he should, then you should totally listen to everything she's saying because she is probably trying to help us, like help the two, right? So if she's saying this is not a good idea and that we should vote for someone like one of them, try to lean into that. Like I know intuition's a thing where you have to trust your gut, but in this case, this decision was absolutely atrocious. It was probably worse than not playing an idol. Actually, it probably isn't, but um I mean, at least that season he was burnt out, so he didn't even like think about it. But this one, like he actively chose to do this, and it's very, very weird to watch. Like it doesn't make any sense. It wasn't towards the end, like he wasn't the last vote. It was a very crucial thing. I am very confused with Meg's vote to Dot as well, but I understand because she was thrown off. If she had like 1 minute just to like collect herself, then she would throw it at Treasure. but there was so much that was happening in that dynamic where she promised Treasure she wouldn't vote for her, and Dot randomly voted for her number one, for his number one. So she's just like, I feel really bad for her. I do.
I will say though, for Meg's game, I do feel like she can be too loyal to too many people, and I feel like she is also stubborn in her own way sometimes.
No,
She probably should have voted for Days.
I 100% agree. I think that Meg plays a game where she tries to play very honest, but I feel like the more people want to play honest, the more it comes off as dishonest because you are not always revealing anything and you're trying to keep your word. And if you keep too many words to every single person, then you're not really a friend to anybody. You're just playing everybody. So in this week, it really blew up in her face because she promised Treasure. She's in the alliance with Dazed. She, there was so much happening where she was in good graces with everybody. So when it came down to it, she felt like she had to vote for Dot because Dot voted for her. In reality, if you were only in a good alliance or a very tight-knit group, you wouldn't hesitate to vote in whoever had the majority of votes, So I think both of their gameplays blew up and it kind of made sense.
Do you think that this, like Q was saying, do you think this was the round they should have flipped? Especially since it does seem like Kelsey and Treasure were willing to work with Dot and Meg.
Yeah, no, I see both sides. I see that, I see in a way where Meg and Dot don't have to flip, but I also can see where Q's coming from. If they wanted to flip, it would be the time. I don't know, and I wouldn't know for sure if it's the right move or not because this is a very, very messy dynamic and everything's loosely connected, and you just never know. So I feel like Meg and Dot. Well, one, I think Dot misconstrued what Days was saying. If you remember in the episode, Days was asking if you would settle for second and third. I don't think he was genuinely asking Dot, could you settle for second and third? He was just propping him with a question so that he could ask more and try to.
It was more of Days' pitch that he should be tagged to the end because he's challenges. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And Dot kind of took that the other way. And I mean, if that's the case, then he should have just flipped, helped Meg flip with Kelsey and Treasure. But obviously, he also wanted to play everybody and be with everybody. So Aspen wasn't a possibility. Days probably was. Him and Days are absolutely over at this point. But Days is over with everybody at this point, besides Fanguy and Aspen and Mike, I guess. But he kind of flipped everybody against him. Dazed, I think, might even be below Dot and Meg at this point, but for some reason I feel like I could see Days surviving for longer because I think he plays it like a really good cockroach. He's really good at surviving.
Let's go to the whole Fanguy Treasure situation where Fanguy basically says he's only going to vote for Treasure if there's already a lot of votes for Treasure, but he ends up being the deciding vote against Treasure.
See, this is the thing. I think everyone's playing very similarly. I think everyone is talking out their ass, which is fine, but you got to read the room. If everyone's doing this similar thing, you got to start to hone it in and not do too much of the assery, all the fake talks. Fanguy is dipping, every single person is kind of dipping their toes into too many things. Besides Treasure and Kelsey, I think Treasure and Kelsey is actually, it's really funny because I thought that they would be playing on the bottom of everything, but it seems like they're always the commodity that everyone wants to gather, right? Everyone wants their number, so they have more room to choose. But Fanguy saying this to Treasure and Kelsey, willing to work with them both, when in reality you have no room to actually do that because Delian, Mike, and Q are all leaders. So this week wasn't the week to be hey, I don't want to vote for you. I will only vote for you if there's a lot of people voting you. It makes sense, and it's something that you probably should say, but when it comes down to it, obviously, who are you going to vote? Is it Days or is it Treasure? So you can't just promise that you won't do that when he was a deciding vote. And I think that Treasure was right to blow him up because I kind of forgot about it. I almost forgot about the whole Treasure and Fanguy getting close thing. Treasure did a good job at blowing him up because there's nothing to lose. Treasure's already in, and now that now you got Fanguy on the rocks with everybody else, like you can't trust him. So I think it's a good move on Treasure's part.
Kelsey also had an emotional reaction.
Yeah,
She's been trying to like still work with Days and Fanguy. Do you think she was just beating a dead horse with that?
Who, Treasure?
No, Kelsey.
Oh, Kelsey. I don't know if Kelsey's doing that on purpose, but I feel like she's doing really well in terms of, first, everyone wants to work with her, but two, she does want to work with Kelsey, with Fanguy and Days, but it's pretty obvious at this point that they're not working with her anymore. But she's continuously like honing on to that. Whether or not it's fake, I think it's real because she is crying a lot in the previews. But it's a good tactic because this really proves that like Fanguy and Days, like they can't be truly trusted. Like they can't actually be trusted. And for Kelsey, it opens more doors to like collaboration with other people because she feels alone, or she feels like she's only with Treasure and Delion. So, but I feel like, so one thing that I was watching is that Kelsey could have blown her game up because she kept like talking about the whole Days and Fanguy thing. If I was Delion, I'd be kind of worried about it because I'd be like, why are you so like keen on working with them when their number one target is most likely one of me and like Q, So it's like, if you want to work with ISO, you gotta sort that out. But I don't think she blew herself up there.
So after this crazy vote where Dot and Meg piss off the leaders are in a chat together, cutting up. They're just ready to clown on everybody after this. Any thoughts on that whole situation?
I think it was absolutely hilarious. It felt like the tables are turned for sure. And like I do think that they might be they might not they didn't have to put in Meg and wait, who did they put in? Meg and Dazed?
Yeah, they put Meg and Dazed.
Meg and Dazed isn't a bad choice. I probably would have chose Dazed and Dot in that situation. Because I feel like I feel like Dot was playing with more people. And the thing is, Dot and Dazed are already like on the rocks with each other. So them like I just think that was a better option. But it's funny to watch them like get all excited about doing this, and it's really funny because everyone's games are exposed. I don't think there's not one besides Aspen. There's not one person that's like everyone knows who they're working with, how they're playing the game, if the word is to be trusted, and stuff like that. Like it's messy. It's absolutely messy. So kudos to the three of them to have this power at this point, because if all three of those people weren't in power, they would definitely be an easy vote. And that's the craziest.
Which goes back to why Survival is obviously an alliance, because if this round was different leaders, they would still be voting together.
Yeah.
So their excuses.
No, there is absolutely no excuse. Like in the end, it is Meg and Dot will always work together. Dazed, Fanguy, and Aspen will always work together. And that's just that. And those two have similar enemies, so they'll work together. So it's a big alliance, with how many people left? Like 11, 10, 9 or 10?
There's 10.
10. And half of them, at least half, is in an alliance. And if Q was in it, it would have been like overflowed 7. It would have actually been 7 again. So it's just like, I think the ones who are playing it most cleverly in that survival group at this point is Aspen and Mike, because I don't even think anyone knows Mike is in this alliance, but the survival was going to need Mike. So Mike is in a great middle spot. Aspen is in a good middle spot. And yeah, those two are playing the best. Meg would have been one of the best survival alliance players. It was just like this episode blew her completely out of the water. And now she's like exposed and canceled, apparently. So,
but because of the way this round turned out, this alliance did have to, try and stab each other in the back at times in this episode. Days is saying that he basically got orders from Dot and Meg to vote for treasurer. And then Dot accepts Dot, and the leaders are just trying to stir all this up. They even get Fanguy to admit that he would put in Meg and Dot. So, like, any thoughts on, I guess, the Dot and Days drama?
What I love about this season is that everyone everyone talks. Like, there are some, other games and other seasons where people really do keep secrets and people do like make sure nothing gets out. But it seems like every single thing that's ever been said in this season goes around, and not only goes around, it goes around the entire group because it always blows up at the group meetings. And also there's factions in this group, and they all find out. Like, Kelsey is always going to know information. Dillion somehow always finds the information out too. And it seems like, people gotta stop lying, like outright lying at this point, because there needs to be more clever lying. Because if Days is gonna say Meg and Dot are the ones giving me orders, and it gets back to everyone else, that's gonna be awkward for Meg and Dot, because they're gonna be like, obviously that's not true, so you're a fucking liar, and you just exposed our alliance, and you're broken. Like, he broke the entire thing for them. So there's no turning back for Days in terms of Meg and Dot's trust. I don't know. Days this week completely confused me, because I feel like he was doing a pretty good job juggling everybody previously, but this week just seems like ever since Q left the group, he just like became this like machine of, let me out everybody, or let me out myself, or something. Like, I don't know what's going on with him. I think he was playing brilliantly before, and he can still do it now, but it's just like everything is messy for him. Like, he has so much drama with everybody. Q, Dot, Dillion, like, it's just a lot. It's a lot of people. And Kelsey, actually.
And I want to say that Q and Mike and Dillion all did a very good job of just getting info out of people and then building it all up, throwing a bag at people.
Yeah.
While Q is joining us now from that leader group, let me add her.
Let's do it. That's so funny. Q is definitely playing a different game now. She's gonna roast me though. I'm ready for it. Hi, Q.
Hello, Q. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great.
Alex, I'm not gonna roast you. I'm gonna drag your ass when it's my turn to be on the podcast for your season.
Oh no! I mean, I deserve.
So,
I definitely
talk your shit.
I definitely.
Because I'm petty, and we'll be doing the same thing.
Well, before we get into all that, let's go back to the beginning of the game. Q, I kind of want to start. Alex brought this up in the first podcast, I think, that you were one of the only people that, well, Mike too. You and Mike were the only people that came into this game, basically with no allies and just a bunch of enemies. So, did you feel forced to work with Meg and Dot, or how did that all come together, I guess?
Yeah, I did feel forced to work with Meg and Dot, and it was really Monet's fault. It was the way that she divided up the teams initially. And then there was, rumor that, she wasn't trying to fuck with any of the other, players. She was just her ISO people. And so we were all just kind of forced to work together. And that just kind of spawned the big 6 to 7 person tangential alliance.
Tangential.
Yeah, that is the word of the season. Speaking of that alliance, we were having this discussion earlier because Days is trying to rewrite history that it wasn't a big alliance, and I was just saying I think him and Aspen don't want to associate it with it because it's unpopular. But can you explain this big alliance to us?
Yeah. So there was a big alliance, Days. There were 7 people. Maybe there weren't 7 people all at the same time, but there were definitely 6 to 7 people in that alliance, and I would say that they all weren't tangential because there were like 3 sets of Final Fours and like Days was in 3 of them. So, I mean, clearly those people weren't tangential to you. But again, I think that like I was kind of forced into it. I think that even Meg and Dot, they probably would have gravitated towards that large alliance given their track record. But, and I think that the online survival season 1 players all kind of knew they wanted to go in and work together. So
yeah,
and then me and Mike with no friends.
Yeah, I will say, even if you wanted Fanguy to be tangential, you and Fanguy were working with the same three people. So, I mean, regardless, you guys had to kind of work together in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know that I was fully working with three people. I was just truly only working with Dot and Meg. So like even within that, Dazed was kind of tangential to me, but yeah.
I just think the overall theme is that you all were very, we got to be team survival to get isolation for at least the first 3 episodes,
Yeah.
3.5 even.
Well, I don't even think that was my perspective though. No, because I was trying to work with Kelsey and Treasure. I always wanted to build a bridge with the ISO people because I saw pretty early on.
Maybe Kelsey.
Yeah, I saw pretty early on though that we were going to be fucked, me, Meg, and Dot, and we were already at the bottom of this like massive alliance. So I actually was, open to working with the ISO people.
Well, I mean, that's kind of why I had a problem with your gameplay in the beginning, because one, just to preface, coming into watching this season, I'm like, I'm gonna be the #1 Q fan, because I am a #1 Q fan. I think you're absolutely hilarious, and you're gonna think I'm kissing your ass, but literally, I like your gameplay. I do. But when you started off, you didn't really hesitate. I mean, you had no choice, but you also did seem very in that 4 in the beginning. Like you mentioned it very clearly that Fanguy is a tangential thing, but I'm down with the 4. So like, even though I know you were trying to build bridges, it seemed to the 3 of them that you were solid with those 4, like the 4 of them. So I'm like, I don't know if Q's gonna like big alliances, and I don't know why she's already telling Kelsey things. So that's why I was like, you're juggling a lot, and I feel like you have to figure it, like you have to make a move. And what you did, I think 2 episodes ago, that's when I was like, okay, there we go. Like that's what you were supposed to do. So ever since then, I mean, I do appreciate how you're playing it, and you changed the game around, because it really could have been just a freaking dominating survival group, and it's just disgusting in that sense. Not like, I love the survival players. I think they're all awesome. It's just, it would be disgusting to watch, because Kelsey and Treasure were not playing that way. Neither was Delion. Like all 3 of them were open. So was Monet. Monet saved Days. So like, to see if that really happened, if that was a narrative, I would be so upset, because clearly it was just a one-sided like affair, So this is great.
And then like the whole Kelsey thing, I mean, I was again open to working with her, but it was also just like, for me, I felt like it was gonna be super fake to sit there and be like, oh yeah, I don't know who the vote is tonight, and then like 8 people say her name, and then now she's got some sort of issue with me,
That's me.
So-
That's how I play it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I understand that though. I think you kept to your morals.
So why is everybody trying to work with Kelsey, and why is everybody getting mad that everybody's
My
trying to work with
question.
Kelsey?
My question as well.
I think for me later, so for me later on in the game, like when I actually was actively trying to work with Kelsey, it was because Delion kind of was on this whole, fuck friends, I'm in this by myself. So that kind of ruled him out. Treasure is hard to get to know. I mean, like she's a sweet girl, but like I wasn't having conversations with her really, unless they were in chats with Kelsey and Delion. So like, that was kind of a difficult relationship for me to build with her. Whereas Kelsey was requesting me for chats, I was seeing Kelsey a lot. So, I mean, I think she wanted to work with me just as much as I wanted to work with her. So
Yeah.
I think the question really should be, Kelsey wanted to work with everybody, okay? She had her hands in
Oh
a lot
no,
of
no,
different
she
pots.
definitely had her hand in the whole drama situation going on too, for sure.
Yeah.
Why did you feel the way you did about Fanguy? Why was he tangential?
Good question.
Because Fanguy said something about him playing duplicitous in his first season. And I was like, you do realize that means you lied, right? Like duplicitous is like, I think just a fancy way of saying you lied. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't want to work with a liar. And then Fanguy, he just seemed so slimy to me. Like I'd seen his season. I know how he moves. I was like, nah, fuck this guy. He just, the same way Patty always calls Dot greasy. That's just kind of how
Oh
how I
no.
felt about Fanguy. Like this guy's just fucking greasy. I don't know.
Funny.
Which I was wrong about because Fan guy's he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
So also right now, other than the comments about, the alliance, Aspen's kind of salty that you are, onto her game. You're the person onto her game. Any thoughts on that?
Wait,
only...
is this real time?
Yes.
Like, oh, I didn't read that. Okay, interesting.
I was the only person in the game that had the foresight to realize that Aspen is a huge threat. She's a huge social threat. She's a strategic threat. And she does this really great thing where she's just able to just fly under the radar. And I played with someone like that in my first season, Didi. And I always knew Didi was a threat, but I was working with her and I couldn't do anything about that. Like I was sleeping with the enemy, right? But with Aspen, I was like, she's tangential to me. I don't even want her to be a tangent. I want her out of this. So I was like, let's take her out right now. Let's do this. And then when she missed the vote, I thought that I had, put the nail in the coffin. And I thought she was gone for forever. And then I realized she could come back, and she did. And so that just put her right back on my radar because, she's good.
Yeah.
And also, Aspen, as much as she dragged D in our previous podcast, you guys play identical games. So I'm going to need you to stop. Thanks.
Damn.
I wish Didi was here this week.
Yeah.
And that's not shade to D. That's just Aspen needs to relax.
I think he plays a great game. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Especially in this season, at least. This season specifically, Aspen is definitely playing a very DD-like game. And only you have caught on to that. I mean, and yeah, no one else is really catching on. Everyone wants to work with her.
So I guess next we'll go to your argument with Dazed about what happened. Why did that come about?
Q, I feel like Q is the headline of almost every episode. Maybe not the first one, but like I feel like you've had a different storyline every single week, and it's great. So yeah, talk about Dazed, because that felt like forever ago at this point.
Well, first of all, I really resent this narrative that Dazed tried to rile me up. Like I'm some like pit bull that you can prod and piss off. If I cursed Dazed out, that was an intentional and willful choice. But he did piss me off when he brought up, I know how you played in your last season. And I'm just like, I don't fucking like the lies. Like, if you want to have an issue with me and you don't want to work with me, say that. Like, literally just say that. We can cut our losses right now and we can move on. But don't try and play no shit where, you're trying to say like, oh, I'm sneaky. Like, I have a history of doing that. When A, you haven't even seen my season. So whoever told you that fucking lied. And also, like, since you haven't seen our season, then you need to have some common sense and realize that maybe they're trying to manipulate you.
Right.
So yeah, I had to curse him out and let him know.
The way you come off is probably in his head, his version is that like you probably were heated up because of him. But in reality, you were obviously like you had a reason to go after him at that point and you did it. So I think that actually tells a lot about how you both play the game. You cast emotions aside, but you use emotion to your advantage. Whereas Dazed tries to make every single plan and also kind of attributes himself in the middle of each plan. You know what I'm saying? Like when things happen, he's like, okay, it's because I did this, so I gotta keep doing this or that to certain people, when that could totally be a very skewed perspective and reality. And so it's definitely, I think both of you guys play good games because you guys are willing to try to
does Dazed play good games? Does he
I don't
play
okay, I don't think I would never dog the way Dazed plays because I feel like he is just a very more chaotic version of me. So I'm not gonna say that he's playing badly. I think that he plays very strongly in a sense that he's willing to want to be one step ahead. It's just sometimes it backfires to the point where everyone's just aware that you're like trying to do all this shit and you're just creating shit, right? So I mean I would argue both of you played a really great game up until this point, because Dazed, everyone wanted to work with Dazed at one point, and you were able to be under the radar even though people had assumptions that you were playing hard or you were a very good judger, like someone who judges people. I don't know. People were already assuming that you were thinking too much. They would never say that about a guy. They will always say that about just like people who are quiet who are females. It's just always them.
It's very calculated.
Very calculated, very manipulating, and very sketchy and all that. But I also wanted to ask, I mean, how do you feel about, so one of my biggest questions in this episode is how you guys picked Meg over Dot to be the nominations, right? I think it makes sense if I put myself in your shoes and watch this unfold. It seems like Meg, who was playing an honest game, just lied and straight up played y'all. While Dot has always been kind of sneaky, and he just did what he usually does and tries to not make enemies. So I think it does make sense at the time for you guys to pick off Meg first. But do you think that is there a factor of like why you guys chose who to go in instead of like Meg or Dot, you know? Is there a reason for that? Because it could also, for me as a viewer watching, I'm like, well, Meg is being like witch hunted again. Like she is, even though like she is definitely the lesser of the two evils in that sense, in that scenario, whatever happened, she tried to explain herself, but no one's believing her. So I want to hear like how you guys thought about that and like your
So watching it back, I mean, the optics looked really bad for Meg. You know, it really did look like that was a whole setup, her little fake.
Ooh, no.
I'm gonna throw it back on Dot. I was just like, bitch, are you kidding me? Like, this is your, you know, Academy award-winning acting. Like, get out of here. So, you know, I think that didn't help, is because it was like I spent all this time talking to Meg, like had this plan. And if she was gonna vote for Treasurer Kelsey, she could have just told me. She could have just said, like, that was the first thing. But there was, and so I think that was like definitely the determining factor, which is that, you know, me, Delion, and Mike were just mad that, you know, you would try to insult our intelligence. But I think that for me also, and you'll get a little bit of insight into this maybe, is that I felt that Meg and Days were kind of at the center of this massive alliance, you know, with Fanguy and Aspen and all these tangential players. And so I felt like picking Meg especially over Dot would do the most damage, because come on, Dot is nothing without Meg.
Yeah, plus like Dot blew up with Days, so Days and Dot would never work together again anyway, and Meg seemed like there's a possibility that she could still work with all these people still. I think just watching, I was like, damn, like she just got thrown a wrench by all of her like closest people, I guess, Days, Dot, and you. It was unfortunate. But I think it needed to happen for both of them. They needed a wake-up call. They needed something to happen to them, because they were playing really crazily. They were playing a lot. So that makes sense. And
I mean, unfortunately, you know, Meg did get, watching it back, Meg did get, you know, persecuted because of Dot's actions. You know? Literally.
And like that's technically what happened. But within the game, there is a lot of aspects to it where strategically, Meg is probably a better choice to get out now versus Dot, because Dot is now blown out anyway, you know, as someone who, so it makes sense. I was going to ask, how do you feel about your new little leadership role with the two outsiders? Like, how do you feel about those two? Would you work with them too at this current moment? Like, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm here for this little petty alliance that we have. You know, I think the three of us were all lone wolves. We're very independent, but I think that we all can also be loyal. It's kind of like what we had in our season, where it's like we're all, you know, strategizing and doing our own thing. But I think that we can keep our word to each other and recognize that, you know, for this round and maybe for a couple more rounds when it's beneficial, this could work, you know?
Yeah. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I think it's going to happen again, so I'm probably going to rush through this.
Oh, no.
So let's talk about you flipping with, or trying to flip with Delion and Kelsey Q.
Yeah, so basically, you know, I said, fuck that old alliance. I'm going to go make me a new one. And I felt like the best candidates for that were Delion and Kelsey. Delion, obviously, because, you know, everyone kept surmising that we were working together. So fuck it. Let's actually try and make something happen. And I think we were just kind of forced together, just like, you know, I was forced with my last alliance. And then Kelsey, because again, I think me and Kelsey already had something in the works. And so my strategy there was to just put the ball in her court and say, you know, look, I worked with this old alliance. They're shiesty. They're not to be trusted. You know, let's flip the game. Let's turn the game. And I was not thrilled with the response that she gave me, but you know.
Well, I kind of want to go to the last round now, where you kind of threatened the leaders, which is what got you to not be in the elimination. I mean, Days is saying you have a very threatening game. Do you like to threaten people in these games?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, and Alex was talking about that. He was saying how, you know, I can play emotionally even though I'm not emotional. I 100% agree with that. I'm not above like manipulating people or threatening people. And Meg is very intelligent, especially like emotionally intelligent. And so I know that I could probably get away with like saying some really slick shit and she's going to catch it and she's going to be like, oh, okay, I know what she's saying. So I was like, yeah, let me just throw that out there and, you know, tell them that if they put me in, I'm going to play really hard. I'm going to win. And then I'm going to force them to pick between Dot and Delion. And I knew that that would get to Meg, and it did. So.
Well, after this last episode with you guys throwing in Days and Meg, I believe you're the only person who's yet to be thrown into an elimination. Why do you think that's working? Are people like,
oh, wow,
afraid to put you in?
I don't think they're afraid to put me in. I think in the previous round, they were just too stupid to put me in. They didn't realize that by trying to be petty and make sure that me and Delion weren't on the same team, they literally saved me. So I think that like that was their fault, you know? And yeah, I currently have this perfect record of never having been in an elimination, so.
Well, on to this last episode. What are your feelings on Dot and this whole plan too?
My feelings on Dot in general, to quote Dee, like, how do I put this politically correct?
Oh my gosh, he always says that.
He just plays dumb. Like, there's just no sort of logic in anything that he does. It was just so cringe to watch. Him voting Meg was just stupid. He was the third person. He had so many other names that he could have thrown out there. And then he tries to convince us that, you know, his heart told him to put in, you know, his best person, Meg. And we were all supposed to buy that wasn't some sort of charade or some sort of act. And it's sad because watching it back, I really did see that Meg was trying to like coax Dot into, you know, going with the plan that she and I discussed. Yep. And unfortunately, because of her response, which was to then vote, you know, Dot as opposed to voting Treasure or even Fanguy, to me, it looked like it was an act. So.
Why do you think you all saw it as an act? The leaders saw it as like Meg is in on this big plan too.
Because Meg, now as much. Yeah, I can see the clips. As much as Meg fucking says that it wasn't an act, and I do believe her reaction where she was like, hair toss, I'm going to throw one back at my boy Dot. And I was just like, it was the fact that she said, like, I'm going to throw one back at my boy Dot. I was like, nah, so like, nah, this is an act.
She was so salty and upset.
Man. And I really do think she wasn't thinking, because it's like, at that point, fuck whatever you told Treasure. You have a legitimate excuse to be like, Treasure, it's me or you now, so it's you, you know?
Yeah. Definitely.
So that's why.
It was a split decision. It was like, there was no time to think. And it was just unfortunate choice of like reaction and choice of voting as well. Two poor choices that wasn't her like active decision. So
well, winding down here before my internet fucks up again, this is a question for both of you actually. Do you think is Dot lying, or do you think he truly believes that he did not turn on people in the last game and that it was Alex and Q?
I'm gonna have to say here that I think that he is good at convincing himself to think of a certain narrative. In his head, he probably never did anything wrong this season or this season, like my season and this season. I don't think he thinks he does anything wrong, which is not like, I'm not trying to say that he's like just like unaware or like has no self-aware, but it's just, I think that he plays a game very innocently and thinks that he's playing it very innocently. So the fact that he thinks that he didn't do anything wrong in my season is very interesting. But in reality, I'm gonna say it again. Jumping over to a big alliance that's not with me and Elizabeth is not playing it loyal or playing it honest, you know? So that's the last time we'll talk about that. But he's
Please.
doing the same thing here, to be honest. He really is.
Yeah, we don't want to bring up last season. I'm so sick of you and Dot in this goddamn narrative. Dot, you were shady. You were fucking around on your team. Internalize it. As far as this season, same thing. I do
Yeah,
agree.
same thing.
You won't say it, but I will. Dot has zero self-awareness, and he's quite frankly delusional if he thinks that, you know, he's playing a good game, an honest game, and
Yeah.
a loyal game.
Yeah.
He's done none of the three.
Well, Nick has decided to cut off again.
Wait, I want to do this because we never do it. You guys never do it consistently. I want to
Do
do
what?
the one-word game.
Oh,
Yeah, one word per
yes,
person.
okay. Nick, I'm sorry you have to watch this and edit, but we're gonna play the game, the very famous podcast game, the one word game. I'm gonna have to pull up all the names. Holy shit, I'm gonna forget all these people's names. Okay, so you know the drill. The first thing that pops in your head, you name it. Okay, so we will start off with some ISO people. Let's do with Monet.
A queen.
Okay, let's go with Kelsey.
Sneaky. I said it before and I'll say it again. You sneaky girl.
She's sneaky. I can agree
I
with that.
love Kelsey though, but she's sneaky.
No,
though.
so do I. I think I love her gameplay. Delion.
Petty.
Oh, Nick is back. First of all, hi Nick. We're playing a
Oh
one-word
my
game.
god, I can't deal.
What?
I said I can't deal.
It's okay. It's okay. We're Q is recording right now, so we're all good.
I'm
We're
recording.
playing a one-word game. Okay.
Okay.
We took over. We co-opted your job. Nick.
Yeah, we just completely.
Because I don't want to do it anymore.
Oh my gosh. Okay, he's quitting. You hear it first. You heard it first here. All right. We went. What was Delion?
Petty.
Petty.
Petty King.
Petty
Love
King.
him.
Petty King. Treasure.
Treasure is living her best fucking life, okay? And that's both within the game and outside of it. I mean, when you go back, like really watch our season, this chick is never home, okay? Treasure is always out in the streets,
Yeah.
living her life, and I love that for her.
Yeah, for sure.
Thriving. That's
That wasn't one word, but it's one phrase. It's one thought.
thriving. That was the word.
Yeah. Okay, let's go with Aspen.
I'm perturbed with Aspen because of her shit talk in the live chats. But Aspen is a floater.
Floater. Let's go with Mike.
I want to say petty, but Mike is he's a strategist. You gotta love it.
Dazed.
Oh my god. Cringe, paranoid, delusions of grandeur. You know, there's so many words to describe Dazed.
Fan guy. Don't say tangential. That's been overused.
He's still slangy, man. I don't know.
Okay. Lastly, your faves, Dot.
Honestly, dumb. Just dumb. Within the game, I don't know him as a person, as a man, but in this game, dumb.
Okay. And lastly, your good pal, Meg.
Scapegoat.
Did I miss anybody? I don't think so, right?
I think you got everyone that was relevant.
that played, actively played. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Nick, your internet's still good, but
Alex, you want to end it? You want to end it, Alex?
oh yeah. Well, first of all, Q is a new host now, so because every time you cut off, Q becomes a host. So
It's my
Q, why don't you end this podcast as the host, as a new host?
Wait, did you all talk about The Fly while I was gone?
The who?
We didn't.
The Fly.
We did not talk about The Fly.
Oh, your Fly. Oh my gosh. Yes, let's talk about The Fly for a quick second. Do you not see flies in LA? Is that not a thing?
No, flies do
Sounds
not
sketchy
exist
with
here.
all the homeless.
Really?
Oh no.
Flies don't
no.
exist over there?
I don't see flies. I mean, yeah.
Well, you
I
clearly
don't see a
did.
lot
You
of
saw
flies
one
here.
in your room.
I must have brought that shit from South Carolina. I don't know.
Oh,
but
God.
that fly was huge. And basically, I wanted to have a chat with myself.
Oh yeah, that was
Everyone had pissed me
hilarious.
off. And this fucking fly kept, ruining my thoughts and
It's your plus
made for
one.
good
You
TV.
had to be in a chat with somebody. It had to be something.
I know.
fly-
Who knew
the
it was
fly
the
was it,
fly?
you know?
I know.
You can't really talk to yourself. It's never gonna happen.
Okay, well, this is going to be a pain in the ass to edit, but Q, you can close out if you want.
Well, I want to thank you all for watching this week's episode of the Online Battle Podcast. And Alex, going forward, keep my name out your fucking mouth, okay? And with that, we'll see you
only
guys
if you
next
play
week.
well.
Okay, it's
All
done.
right. Okay.
There we go.